Water Brutes are another unit that got hot fixed. They got a nice buff, so they're much more threatening. And yeah, up to 600 weapon strength. Now, I don't know, did they actually have collision attacks enabled before? I'm not 100% sure, but regardless, they're a little bit better for what you get out of them, which is definitely nice. Before, they were pretty much just like worse Mutolith Vortex beasts, I would argue, but now, right out of Rohan's High Elves going to be trying to take on these two Slaughter Brutes here, both going to be healed by a Chaos Sorcerer, Lord of Nurgle, which means you're in for a warrior good time. Got Exalted Hero of Nurgle as well. We got some Marauders, two Chaos Warriors, and a couple of Hellstriders. Basically like upgraded Warhounds poison, essentially, in this matchup. We do also have some Warhounds as well, just to pad out mobility numbers a little bit here. And then opposing them, right out of Rohan's High Elves, he's got Tyrion up in, not up in the sky, that would be amazing, but rather on the ground. He does have the Omen of Asurion up in the sky, Dragon Princes, 3, including the Fireborn. He's also got a spear hidden way in the back there, just for moral support and to give legal numbers here. We've also got some Reaver Archers, and that's basically it for the High Elves. They're definitely going to be all in on the cavalry, trying to kite and cycle charge, hit and run, almost like Wood Elf tactics in a way. But it's, I've been seeing Rider of Rohan play this style a little bit recently in some various matchups. I do have a similar replay of him playing a similar type build against Khorne. But, yeah, I mean, it makes sense from a perspective of, again, it's like we talked about with the recent Empire versus Khorne video. If there's matchups where you don't think you can necessarily just win outright in melee, using that mobility and skirmish to try and develop favorable engagements for yourself is definitely advisable. Here we're going to see Dragon Princes charge in, Tyrion at their side. We've got the Phoenix also dropping that hot cone of diarrhea all over those Marauders, which is effective in taking them out. But as far as the single entity fight goes here, yeah, I mean, the Dragon Princes are going to saturate in here, not do a whole lot of damage. Of course, they come in and just crush a few Marauders immediately, or the Hellstriders have time to react. The Spearmen are going to come forward here and try and fight in a supporting role. Yeah, the Exalted Hero gets kind of surrounded here as leadership drops. Not actually taking all that much damage, though, as the single entity fight. Again, it's going to be 2v3, largely. I mean, the High Elven Mage technically is here, and because of martial prowess, her stats not the worst. Her weapon strength is very low, but it will be a tiny bit of chip damage over time against the Slaughter Brutes, especially as their attacks are getting distracted, going into other targets. But largely, Warriors should be able to fight with advantage as much as they're able to. But right now, the Warriors and Marauders just kind of getting cycle charged. It's a very mobile build, to be honest, and the Hellstriders here trying to shoot a gap to find the Reavers. The Reavers go ahead and just give the counter charge. They're going to eat some damage, and yeah, we see there First of the Leper. Interesting choice on those Hellstriders, I guess just because they're going to be taking so much damage trying to punch back. Yeah, you see the Reaver Archers just basically get completely killed in that engagement. Cost-wise, that's kind of fine. I mean, the Hellstriders are decently expensive, but that's a decent trade. It's not great, but it's okay. But yeah, then they kind of end up all the rest getting wrecked by the Dragon Princes there, which is definitely not ideal. But the one thing about the High Elves is their single entities are much more mobile. So again, talking about using that mobility to develop and get into favorable engagements, trying to avoid unfavorable engagements like there. They avoid the double Slaughter Brute, get out into space, try and figure out another angle to try and approach here. But even the Spearmen pulling back, not wanting to just stay and get sacrificed, definitely makes sense. Lord Metal Mage getting some good bombardment damage there on the Chaos Warriors, but High Elves looking like they are taking some attrition damage and definitely doing damage in return. I mean, one Slaughter Brute is down, you know, about half HP, but have basically got close. No, I guess this one's not quite close bang to itself, but this one pretty much is. So we'll have to see as they continue to go here. Just swipe a model away from the Fireborn there. But yeah, again, the mobility advantage for the High Elves. Their speed is going to allow them to dictate in a pretty real way what this fight looks like. Let's see another little Searing Doom bombardment there. Be curious if the Slaughter Brute is big enough, if you put the template like directly on them, how much damage it would do. Like I know Piercing Bolts of Burning in the past has been able to do good damage to single entities. Uranus Thunderbolt also, if you can get hits, can do some decent damage to single entities. But yeah, once again, the Hellstrider is kind of being thrown in. Reaver Archers just having a nice bloody trade here against each other. But in general, the heavier cavalry, once they arrive, the Hellstrider is going to have a very bad time and get completely killed there. Another big cone of the Phoenix stuff going to rain down on those Chaos Warriors. Can't help but think that, I mean, hindsight 2020, obviously, High Elves can definitely do a lot with their bows. The shields are important, but maybe it would have been better to have these Chaos Warriors be halberds. Not that Chaos Warrior halberds are amazing, but that extra bonus versus large and the armor piercing, I think, could have gone a long way into helping support when the High Elves do land in these engagements. Of course, Marauders don't have an anti-large variant for Warriors, only for Norska, but that unit just getting absolutely deleted on the charge. Very satisfying as the High Elves come in. And they're going to try and pull away here. But the Slaughter Brutes are still getting some attacks. It's not like they're necessarily all just running around ineffectively. But Tyrion comes in for a nice attempted assassination on the Exalted Hero. And it's now going to face a potential 2v or 3v1 even, as the Sorcerer Lord on foot might come get involved. Not 100% sure yet, but a little Plague of Rust there on the Slaughter Brute. Takes it down to just 8 armor. Yeah, they do have armor being debuffed here by exhaustion. But that being said, pretty much everyone is, at this point, is going to be suffering from exhaustion. Most units, at least. Omen of Assyrian gets caught 2v1 here, and that's not the most favorable situation, but the fact that the Dragon Princes are able to keep cycle charging is definitely very important. Tyrion also gets a nice 1v1 here against the Exalted Hero. See if he can take advantage of that faint riposte uptime. Looks like he was not doing any attacks, but now has just started doing some attacks there. Little Sunfang will do a lot more damage to the infantry here than the cavalry, so relatively safe to use just on top of friendly units like that. Handful of arrows also falling from the Reaver Archers. Just trying to accrue whatever value they can before this game winds down. But the Reaver Archers largely have actually paid for themselves here, which is nice to see. Rider Rohan been using them very much in a hybrid role. We've seen multiple times them kind of rear charging, getting into melee against various targets. And given their superior melee stats over regular skirmish cavalry, you definitely want to use them in melee if you can. Obviously don't want to throw them away, but definitely as a support troop here, like throwing them in with Tyrion, make sure you keep that Exalted Hero locked down, make sure Tyrion can finish him off. That is one single entity off the board for the Warriors, which is definitely going to hurt them, especially as the single entity fights play out in the late game. But speaking of which, it's like Tyrion going to bravely charge in. He's still got his self-heal available, so he can relatively safely take this engagement. Even if he gets terrified away here, he'll still have enough speed to get away and regroup his leadership and get that healing. Speaking of healing, we see there some healing popping on the Slaughter Brute, but is the Slaughter Brute on fire, actually? I don't think so. Tyrion does have flaming damage, but he gets kind of zoned away from the one that's healing momentarily, so he can't reduce the incoming healing at all. But to do see a Plague of Rust on the other Slaughter Brute, that's pretty close to its healing cap, so definitely that Sorcerer Lord of Nurgle has just been dumping multiple fleshy abundances into these big guys. But yeah, you see the healing proc for Tyrion there as well. That is going to set the balance of power pretty significantly in the High Elves' favor, as just the HP sort of equation now favors them significantly, especially with Tyrion's melee defense and armor. He's got, what, perfect vigor essentially right now, from being with the Omen of Assyrian, right? This is the vigor refresh that I'm looking for. Yeah, that Omen of Hope means that him and the mage in particular being completely fresh here, just versus the exhaustion of the Slaughter Brutes. Of course, those active vigor effects that we can actually see now, definitely see how debilitating they are. And that's going to be army losses as one Slaughter Brute is fallen, the other routes. That'll be game. So very fun stuff for sure. Big thanks to Rider Rohan for sending that one in. Have to slay the Slaughter Brutes. They did their part for sure. The rest of the build, unfortunately, did not do enough to carry the win here. Would have helped probably to have some Marauder Horsemen as well. Try and counter skirmish a little bit. No doubt Rider Rohan would have tried to prioritize the Marauder Horsemen in an early phase, but, you know, nice to have the Hellstriders, even if they don't end up, well, one of them pays for themselves, one of them does not. A little bit of a mixed bag there, but, yeah, the Warhounds ended up not doing what they needed to. I think maybe just a little bit of mispositioning, not maybe working in concert with the Hellstriders necessarily, but also credit to Rider Rohan, punishing with his own mobile units. All these Dragon Princes are going to get pretty good value. Yeah, the Reavers, respectable. One of them goes over 1,000. Definitely pretty solid. Tyrion gets almost 3,000, dueling with the large single entities himself. And the Phoenix, not so much, but again, it's definitely something. But yeah, I'm very impressed with the Slaughter Brutes, I have to say. With the buff, they seem like they're potentially really nice. This build, you know, from one perspective makes a lot of sense, right? You've just got the 2 Slaughter Brutes, you're healing with them, got a bunch of defensive infantry to kind of act as meat shields, and then a little bit of mobility. The one thing also, maybe you cut this Exalted Hero of Nurgle. They're pretty good, but I think the cost maybe could be better justified in getting a little bit more width here. I mean, obviously, hindsight 2020, but even against a more traditional High Elf build, like I think the Slaughter Brutes are enough single entity power that you don't necessarily need him. Could also say maybe take, what is it? I forget, Rancid Visitations. That's the single target damage spell for Lord Nurgle, right? I don't know if he had it, if he used it, but that could also be a way to kind of help out things a little bit here. But yeah, actually the auxiliary phase here with the Reaver Archers and just the cavalry being able to run rampant was definitely a big issue. But warriors can do some things in this matchup. You know, you've got the Slaughter Brutes, which, you know, single entities can be a risk at times against High Elves because of their bow excellence. But at the same time, you can also potentially shut down their bow play. But yeah, I mean, Skull Crushers are a lot better than they were before. And I think I actually have a replay where someone takes both Skull Crushers and Rot Knights. I want to say I have one in the tank that features that. But yeah, at this point, these two units are very comparable. There's some situations where I might take Skull Crushers, some situations I might take Rot Knights, some situations I might actually take a mix of both. But yeah, those elite cavalries, like the Fireborn, can beat Skull Crushers, but no other High Elf cavalry can. And so if you're looking at a build with, like, you know, multiple Skull Crushers, maybe you get like 2 Skull Crushers, 2 Rot Knights. I mean, that's so much spend on elite cavalry. But at the same time, you can do it. And you can, you know, just take like a cheap, like we saw, Lore of Nurgle caster, Sorcerer Lord, kind of kit him down, you know, do whatever you need to there to be able to heal them. You know, something relatively cheap. Yeah, even just take him on foot like we saw there, to be honest, with just Fleshy Abundance maybe. Maybe you don't even take Stream of Corruption, but maybe just that and Rancid Visitations. I mean, yeah, you still got 4,000 points with which to build the rest of your army. I don't know if this is good, but it is something you can do. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.